Village of Shadows. The people who never age nestled deep within the misty valleys of the Ngoma Hills was a village few had ever heard of and even fewer had seen. It was called Nyumbani ya Kivuli, the Village of Shadows. Legend had it that the people of the village were blessed with eternal youth, their faces untouched by time, their bodies as strong and agile as the day they were born. But such blessings never come without a price. This is the story of a journalist named Adaeze who discovered the horrifying truth about Nyumbani ya Kivuli. Adaeze Nwosu was a rising star in investigative journalism. Her hunger for truth had taken her to dangerous corners of the world, but nothing intrigued her more than unraveling the mysteries of her homeland, Nigeria. When she first heard whispers of a hidden village where no one aged, she dismissed it as mere folklore. Yet the stories kept coming. An old hunter claimed he'd seen it. A trader spoke of people with unnaturally smooth skin buying supplies in the dead of night. Curiosity turned into obsession, and Adaeze decided she had to find the truth. Her journey to Nyumbani ya Kivuli began with a grueling trek through the dense forest. The air was thick with humidity, and the canopy above was so dense it swallowed the sunlight. Local guides refused to accompany her, muttering warnings about curses and demons. Undeterred, Adaeze pressed on alone, armed with her camera, notebook, and a deep-seated belief that every mystery had a logical explanation. After days of wandering, she stumbled upon it. The village was breathtaking. Thatched roof huts dotted the landscape, surrounded by fields of vibrant green crops. Children played by a sparkling river, their laughter echoing through the trees. The villagers greeted her warmly, their smiles bright and welcoming. Yet, as she observed them, unease began to creep in. There was something off about the people of Nyumbani ya Kivuli. Their faces were flawless, their movements fluid and graceful. Even the elderly, with hair as white as snow, had the vitality of youth. Adaeze couldn't pinpoint what disturbed her until she realized everyone looked the same as the descriptions. She'd heard from travelers decades ago. No one had aged. Adaze's initial awe turned to suspicion. She spent her days interviewing the villagers, trying to piece together their secret. They spoke of a blessing from their ancestors, a gift passed down through generations. But no one would elaborate on how it worked. They dodged her questions. With polite smiles, and the village elder, Baba Kato, always seemed to intercept her at the most opportune moments. One night, unable to sleep, Adaeze decided to explore. The village was eerily quiet. The only sounds the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. She noticed something strange. The villagers, every single one of them, were gathered around a massive bonfire at the edge of the village. Hidden behind a tree, she watched as they began to chant, their voices low and melodic, rising and falling in a hypnotic rhythm. At the center of the circle stood Baba Kato, holding a carved wooden staff. Beside him was a young boy, no older than 8, trembling as he clutched a small goat. The chanting grew louder, more frantic, as Baba Kato raised the staff high. Adaeze's stomach twisted in fear as she realized what was about to happen. Before she could intervene, the boy's trembling stopped. His eyes went blank, and he handed the goat to Baba Kato. The elder slit its throat, and the villagers erupted into cheers as the blood seeped into the ground. But it wasn't over. The boy began to scream, his voice a shrill, agonized wail that made Adaeze's blood run cold. His body convulsed, and then, as suddenly as it began, he collapsed. The villagers carried him away. The next morning, Adaeze confronted Baba Kato. "What are you hiding?" she demanded, her voice shaking with anger. "What did you do to that boy?" Baba Kato's expression was unreadable. "You should leave, child," he said quietly. "This is not a place for outsiders." But Adaeze refused to back down. That night, she hid near the bonfire again, determined to uncover the truth. What she saw chilled her to the bone. As the villagers gathered, she noticed something she hadn't before. One of the villagers, a beautiful woman named Amina, stood apart from the others. Her eyes glowed faintly in the firelight, and her shadow flickered unnaturally. Adazy watched in horror as Amina stepped forward, her form shimmering like a mirage. Her skin peeled away, revealing a grotesque horned creature beneath. The demon. The villagers knelt before her, chanting, "Mlazi, we bring you this sacrifice. Keep us young, keep us strong." The demon smiled, her sharp teeth glinting in the firelight. "Your loyalty pleases me," she purred. "But the blood of goats grows thin. Next year, you will bring me something more precious." Her eyes scanned the crowd, lingering on the children. Adazy's heart raced as she realized the horrifying truth. The villagers' eternal youth came at the cost of blood sacrifices, and the demon, Mlazi, had disguised herself as one of them to ensure their loyalty. The boy's collapse the previous night wasn't exhaustion. It was the demon's siphoning. His life force. Unable to stay hidden any longer, Adazy took a step back, snapping a twig beneath her foot. The sound echoed through the clearing, and every head turned toward her hiding spot. The demon's glowing eyes locked onto hers, and she felt a wave of cold terror wash over her. "It seems we have an uninvited guest," Mlazi hissed. "Bring her to me." Adazy ran. She darted through the trees, her breath ragged, her heart pounding like a drum. Behind her, she heard the villagers giving chase, their voices distorted and inhuman. The forest seemed to close in around her, the branches clawing at her skin as she fled. Just when she thought she couldn't run any farther, she burst into a clearing and stumbled upon a small shrine. At its center was a weathered carving of a woman holding a staff, her face serene and kind. Adazy fell to her knees, desperate for help. "Please," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "If anyone can hear me, help me." The air grew still, and a soft voice spoke in her mind. "Take the staff. Use it to banish her." With trembling hands, Adazy reached for the staff. As soon as her fingers touched it, a surge of warmth filled her body. She turned to face her pursuers, the demon at their head, and raised the staff. High. A blinding light erupted from the staff, illuminating the forest. The villagers screamed and fell to the ground, their youthful faces aging rapidly as the light washed over them. Mlazi shrieked, her form flickering and fading until she vanished into the darkness. When the light faded, the forest was silent. The villagers lay unconscious, their true ages revealed. Adazy staggered back to the village, the staff still clutched in her hand. She knew she couldn't stay. The story she had uncovered was too dangerous to share, and the demon's return was inevitable. Adazy left Nyumbani ya Kivuli that night, vowing to expose the truth while keeping the staff hidden. But even now, she feels the demon's presence, watching, waiting, and she knows that one day the village of shadows will call her back.